Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Greg Groogan in Houston.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Rudy Koski in Austin, and this is Texas, the issue is.
In Texas, there is no contest more ferocious and increasingly bare-knuckle than the four-way Republican battle to succeed Ken Paxton as Attorney General. Among the contenders in a primary historically dictated by the hard right-leaning GOP base is Galveston State Senator Mayes Middleton, who contends his record checks all the conservative boxes and then some. Senator Mayes Middleton, conservative. You built that reputation in the Texas Senate. What are you most proud of?
So number one, my faith, my belief in our Lord Jesus Christ. But you know, we're in a great revival right now in our country, especially after Charlie Kirk's assassination. And we need to be bold in demanding those conservative values, those biblical values in government. But look, I'll also tell you this. I am the only one in this Attorney General's race that's been protested this year at the Texas Capitol. They had these big, ugly green signs like this with my face on it, X's through my eyes, and they called me the bathroom bigot because I don't want men in my little girl's restroom, locker room, or shower. This is common sense. And you know, they didn't stop there. They actually threatened my life. They've threatened my family. But I'm not bending. I'm not relenting. I will not allow people like that to determine the direction of our state or of our nation.
Senator Middleton, you're a lawyer, but you're also a businessman. How will your experience in the oil patch, and I call it the oil patch because it's our state's greatest asset, how will that help you help Texans and help the Texas economy from the AG's position?
All right, so look, for 7 years, I've been writing these laws, drafting them, defending them against attacks by Democrat lawyers in the House, defending them against attacks by Democrat lawyers in the Senate. Who better to enforce them than somebody that was on the ground floor writing them and already defending them against the attacks by the left? But not only that, the AG's office is a 4,000 employee agency. It's huge. It's nearly 750 lawyers. So you're not just there to protect and defend our laws and Constitution. You're not just there to enforce our laws. You set the conservative agenda for this entire state. And look, I've started companies, I've run companies. You have to have someone that's signed the front of a paycheck and knows where the buck stops in order to lead an agency like that and make it the most conservative law firm in America, because that's the goal.
Senator, you hope to succeed Ken Paxton as Attorney General. What did he do that you want to replicate, and what do you want to expand upon?
So this is the tip of the spear for our state, right? The legislature is only in session every other year. So here's some priorities of mine. Number one, I want to use every resource, every tool available in the AG's office to back up President Trump and his deportation and border security agenda, which includes zero tolerance for those George Soros elected officials that are in the way of that. We know that's going to happen. We've seen it again and again. They treat our laws and our Constitution as suggestions. And frankly, anyone that operates that way, and I'm thinking of Lena Hidalgo, I know you are too, they need to be removed from office. So what can I do as Attorney General to those that are blocking that deportation and border security agenda? I can do two things. I can sue for civil penalties, and my favorite tool, sue for removal from office. This is a calling for me. This is not a job. I give away the salary. I don't take the pension. I don't take the health care. I don't take the state license plate. I don't take the lobbyist NFL tickets. I don't take the lobbyist ski trips. I'm only here to serve and fight for the conservative values that we believe in, and that is what I've done since day one. As a seventh-generation Texan, the reason why this is so important is we don't have another Texas to move to.
Okay, fellas, my one-word description is committed. Stephen, what's your word?
My one word, runoff.
Okay, Rudy, one word, please. Lay it on me.
That's a good word, Stephen. All right, Greg, I'm going to go down the catwalk with the one word, pageant.
Okay, plenty to unpack here, so stay with us. Texas, the issue is. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Mayes Middleton, attorney, oil patch multimillionaire, certified conservative warrior, and candidate to be the Lone Star State's top cop. Rudy, in this primary, the contenders keep raising the ante when it comes to red meat. Senator Middleton insisting in our interview he will seek out and remove from office Democratic office holders who defy President Trump or state law. What do you make of that?
You know, what I make is I'm surprised you didn't bring up Mega Mayes, his little slogan there earlier. You know, right, this primary is shaping up to be a GOP echo chamber with all four candidates essentially saying the same thing. They're pro-Trump and they're pro-law and order. So instead of a political boxing match in this attorney general's race for Republicans, it's looking more like a beauty pageant, my word. Mega Mayes, you know, he gets to win the catchphrase competition with this snappy campaign slogan. You know, you gotta admit, hey, that's great. It really sticks. Chip Roy, you know, he's the sure bet contender for best dress, known for his eye-catching social media spins. Joan Huffman, I hate to say this, most congenial, which like in the beauty pageant, you don't want to be. And Eric Reitz, with his staunch defense of Ken Paxton, dismissing accusations of professional and personal misdeeds, trashing those who point out those character flaws. You know, he seems to be embracing that backhanded compliment that you hear in pageant from competitors typically toss out backstage. You're so brave wearing that, Greg.
All right, Stephen, this is a Texan Republican primary, a contest where moderates generally get kicked to the curb. What matters here is fealty to the president. Rudy just talked about that, and convincing the base you are best equipped to use the AG office to advance the GOP agenda. Agree or disagree?
Definitely agree. And as we've seen, you know, Ken Paxton, who is one of the most known attorney generals in the country, in his loyalty to President Trump, some may call him a press release or a lawsuit attorney general, which the lawsuits are a part of the role. But it's really which one of these primary candidates can kind of fill those shoes, because Ken Paxton has made a name for himself in the attorney general's role. And so, yeah, you got to be loyal to the president and show that. And like Rudy said, a lot of people are saying the same things, is whose message will just be loudest.
All right, Rudy, you've watched Middleton in action a bunch of times, a lot on the Senate floor, and he's carried and passed some of the big ticket values initiatives like the trans bathroom ban and prohibition of biological males in women's sports. Does that give him any kind of edge in this primary?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of build off what Stephen just said. It is a very good message to pitch to moderates in the general election, what you just talked about. And overall, it hurts Democrats who oppose the bathroom bill and legislation to protect women's sports. The problem is the floor fight in the Senate was overshadowed by the debate on the House side. Middleton just didn't get a lot of media coverage. And all four candidates, they can claim the same red meat issues. It's why the GOP primary is more like a beauty pageant and a popularity contest. And it's why recent polls are showing Chip Roy up big, followed by Joan Huffman. And earlier this year, that's because they both were in the media spotlight on big issues like the federal budget, crime reform legislation. MAGA Mayes, Paxton's pal Reitz, they have a lot of ground to cover. So after Christmas, get ready for the nasty shenanigans to start. You know, tricks like you usually see in the backstage of beauty pageants by contestants, sticking gum onto shoes, changing out that hairspray to oil, right? It's going to get ugly.
All right, Stephen, I'm going to put you on the spot. How do you see this primary unfolding down the stretch run, and which two contenders advance to a runoff?
Yeah, I definitely see that it's going to a runoff, like you mentioned. I mean, it's just a crowded field with known names that have their own different pockets of support. I think Chip Roy will be at the top of the ticket. It's just a matter of, will Mayes or Huffman be that number two? All right, coming up, the Dallas County Republican Party pushing for a hand count and paper ballots on primary election day. We'll discuss that after the break. All right, election day for the March primaries, less than 80 days away, and there's a big change happening in one of the largest counties in Texas, Dallas County, where I am. The Dallas County Republican Party has pushed for and accomplished getting paper ballots and a hand count on primary election day only. I spoke to the Dallas County GOP Chair Alan West to get his explanation.
Well, it's not just the Dallas County GOP. I think that all voters in Dallas County should be very concerned with some of the failures and the flaws and the shortcomings they've seen in the electronic voting system that we have here. As a matter of fact, the ES&S poll book system that horrifically failed a year ago in November 2024 has been banned from the state of Texas because of those failures. So I think that it is a time when we look at, I'm a big college football fan, let's start considering some blocking and tackling when it comes to our elections and our electoral systems. And so just on election day, when we have the opportunity to do so, the Dallas County Republican Party will go to a hand count, hand marked paper ballot system.
Are you alleging any fraud, or are you just thinking a hand count is a better way from a process standpoint?
Well, I think when you consider Albert Einstein, when he said the pure definition of insanity is continue to do the exact same thing and think you're going to get different results. And so why would we not want to look at some other course of action? And that's what we came up with to say, let's go back and see. So I think there's a lot of trepidation, but this is something that we have done before. Is it going to be a new process at this scale? Yes, it is. But I think that we have the ability to be able to, effectively implement this system and, conduct this election.
Will there be fewer polling locations? I know there was some discussion in Commissioner's Court today as of this recording. I think there's more than 400 locations typically for a primary. Will there be in the 200 range for Republicans?
Yeah, this is one of the great things. I mean, we're actually saving Dallas County money because we're not going and using a lot of these electronic machines. And also, when you look at the countywide voting system, I mean, I think we're looking at 410 to 420 different polling locations. We're talking about less than 300. And of course, we're going back to community-based. I mean, who does not want to have community-based precinct level voting? Because that's why we have precinct chairs. What's the whole purpose of having precinct chairs, which is an elected position, if people aren't, wrapping their hands around and taking responsibility and accountability for elections within their precincts?
So you're saying Republican voters in March will be voting by their precinct, correct?
Yes, so we're providing an alternative for people to look at and people to study. And hopefully there will not be people that try to create obstacles to this happening, because we're doing everything according to Texas election code and law.
Are you going to just continue to advocate for hand counting, or you want to see how it goes for the primary to determine if you'll push for this on a broader scale in Texas?
Well, I don't have the control in a general election. And so the only place where the party has any opportunity to affect the electoral process is on election day in a primary, and that's what we're doing. So we're fully operating within the rules, the boundaries, the left and right parameters and limits that we have set before us. And again, I think that our success would be a great thing for Dallas County. It'd be a great thing for the state of Texas and for the nation, for us to look and say, maybe perhaps we can start looking at moving toward this process at a different scale, maybe, but definitely, maybe one day we could get to that happening in a general election.
Do you fear that this process could make a slower or longer election day for your voters?
I tell you, Steve, when you look around and you see people that are still taking in results from elections a week after the election is over, I don't see what people are concerned about. And first of all, I fear God and I dread not.
All right, and I want to say, Alan West is from Georgia like me, but rocking that Tennessee tea. I had something to say to him about that off camera, guys. All right, to be clear, what the Dallas County GOP is doing is completely legal, and it can only happen on primary election day. The primary elections are handled by the parties, but for early voting, if you're in North Texas or in Dallas County or in a county that does this, they do not control that. So to be countywide voting for early voting and on election day, Republicans will get their way in Dallas County, hand count and paper ballots. Greg, Alan West never mentioned fraud. Why do you think he's doing this?
Well, because whether they're completely misguided or right on target, a substantial number of Texans have simply lost trust in the integrity of our elections. Look, we can rehash the debate over the president's still completely unverified claims of election fraud, or we can focus on rebuilding trust in an absolutely essential democratic process. If it takes a hand count to allay the fears of doubters, so be it. Let us not forget we live in a digital society which is bombarded with reports of there information being hacked, it is not beyond the pale for folks to question whether a process as critical as choosing elected leaders is vulnerable to manipulation from sinister forces. Here's another way to think about it. We all generally prefer meals cooked from scratch as opposed to rapidly prepared, highly processed fast food. Counting paper ballots the old-fashioned way offers a huge number of dubious Texans a degree of comfort and hopefully regenerates trust that has eroded amid all the reporting and unsubstantiated rhetoric regarding stolen elections. Stephen?
Rudy, Alan West, Chairman West, he was referring to a 2024 poll book error or incident that happened in Dallas County. Now, we know that there have been multiple audits since the 2020 presidential election. There have been cases found, but not widespread cases of voter fraud. What is your take on this?
You know, Stephen, you're right. Most of the fraud cases that have been caught so far in Texas do not involve really big numbers. But it's worth noting 1,400 votes were ruled illegal in a very contentious Harris County race, and that did make a big difference in the outcome of that race. Democrats, of course, will downplay voter fraud. Republicans will argue even one case of fraud, too many. Both sides technically are right. Now, the claims about secret computer programs and online backdoors to flip votes, they've, as Greg mentioned, never really truly panned out. But voter machines, they do malfunction. That happens. So the more valid discussion may actually be based on technology. A study by the Brenham Center recently for Justice, I say recently, 10 years ago, put a big red flag up. Researchers noted that at the time, 43 states were using machines at least 10 years old. 14 states had machines 15 years old. And nearly every state at the time had machines that were out of production. So keeping up with technology is expensive. Mistakes happen. Machines malfunction. And it's true, paper and pens will not crash. But remember that old voting adage and warning, you know, there's accusations of ballot box stuffing. Right, Stephen?
Yeah. Greg, your last question. Collin County, which is neighboring to Dallas County, one of the seen as the gold standard from audits when it comes to election efficiency. They actually also have one of the highest voter turnouts in the state. Now, their commissioners moved to a all paper ballot, but it will be electronically tabulated. In that constitutional amendment election that we had in November, long lines, some delays. Do you think we'll start seeing more counties trying to do different things when it comes to voting?
I do, at least until the current generation moves on to the great beyond. Remember, Stephen, the age of the average voter in Texas is still at least 20 years older than you are, my brilliant yet still youthful colleague. Lots of folks in my cohort of Texans never developed the confidence nor the comfort with digital technology that succeeding groups fully embrace. The UH Hobby School polling from last year here in Harris County found 1 out of 3 voters consider election fraud a problem. I'm just saying throwbacks like old school paper ballots and mandatory picture ID offer technology skeptical Texans a measure of verification they can put their faith in. Stephen?
Rudy, sorry to cut you off at the knees. Just need a yes or no. Will we see more counties doing this? And take us to the next segment.
Yeah, I think so. Fredericksburg, Gillespie County did it recently. Williamson County, Bastrop County went from paper ballots going into scanning into machines. So I think that's going to happen more so than anything else. All right, we still have a few more issues to chew on. It's our wild card round right after this break. All right, welcome back. This is where we take on some additional issues, some hot, some right out of left field. I think Greg's going to do that one. My issue is the coming price hike for computers in 2026. This new emerging affordability issue directly linked to the blind dashing into the AI universe. Here we go, bam. Tech companies, they're gobbling up memory and storage chips. They're doing it just like Pac-Man on steroids. Gobble, gobble, gobble. You know, it's all to power and feed those new cyber brains who are listening as we speak right now. No offense, they're Skynet overlord. So if you are in the market for a new computer, now may be the time to buy because an industry-wide shortage of memory and storage chips expected to drive up cost. And in the extreme, it could be a sequel to that chip shortage caused by the pandemic. Oh no, here we go, Greg.
All right, Rudy, to say our President of the United States is bulletproof when it comes to his often coarse, uncouth, fact-challenged rhetoric is kind of an understatement. He's managed to survive and even thrive a slew of genuinely reprehensible statements that would have devastated the careers of other less resilient politicians. And yet this week, Donald Trump's horrific tweet in the wake of the fatal stabbing of director Rob Reiner and his wife, allegedly at the hands of the couple's beloved son, exceeding anything I've heard thus far. To publicly proclaim Reiner's murder was somehow related to the propaganda ploy labeled Trump derangement syndrome was simply grotesque and a level of mean-spirited narcissism that established a new low even for this commander-in-chief. We have given Donald Trump credit when credit was due. However, this sin, it's just beyond defense. Rudy?
All right, Stephen,
Well said,
give us
Greg.
your...
I'll take it from there. And my issue is we're going to end it on a lighter note. It's going to be sports. Diego Pavia, the quarterback for Vanderbilt. Now, I will say that he probably got my Heisman vote if I was a Heisman voter. But the way that he reacted, oh my goodness.
Right.
That just, man, everything is on social media and everyone has a voice. And it was shown on full display in the 24 hours after him losing the Heisman. I'm so happy and proud of the Indiana quarterback that won. He has a great story. I'm happy for him and his family. But, man, Pavia, what a sore loser. That's all I'm going to say. All right, guys, that's all the time we have. To see this episode or any of our past ones, go to our station's YouTube channels.
And keep the conversation going on social media.
All right, we're going to take a holiday break, but we'll be back in the new year. We're still going to take up issues, but everything changes to the battleground here in Texas. We'll see you then.